Hi class. So today we will be discussing chapter 5 of the book. And so for the first quote, when Carla pretends she's my sister in public, she calls me Ermito, like when Chino calls me. In private, when it's only the six, she calls me Bishito or Montito or Nito. I don't mind, I'm the youngest, besides sleeping in the same room as Patricia and Carla and Ocos and hugging on the boat. This is the closest we've been, brushing our teeth in Acapulco. So, Ermito means little brother in Spanish, which makes sense since this is what Carla sees Javier. Chino acts like an older brother to Javier at times, like when he kept him warm on the boat. Bichito means little bug or small animal. Moncito means little monkey. And Nenito means little boy. Carla is comparing Javier to a monkey, which I think is a common thing for siblings to do, to call each other fun nicknames. Also, Javier stays really close to Patricia and Carla, making him like a little monkey hanging on to them. Patricia even tells Carla to stop calling him names, but Javier doesn't mind since he likes the idea of them being family. And then Javier flashbacks to thinking about the time on the boat and begins to say that brushing their teeth is the closest they've ever been to acting like a family. One thing to note is that Javier likes Carla. I think it's more of like a friendship / familial type of love. The second thing is that he likes to feel that he's like a part of their small family. He craves to be close to them, even when his own family is not with them. The significance of this quote is to understand that Javier wants to be included in the Patricia and Carla family, and he's happy to pretend that he is a part of them when he's trying to lie to like the soldiers or the police. Also, that he is grateful for the love and support and the protection from Patricia. In the second quote, when Carla comes back, I'll shower and I'll cut my nails. I like having the shower 2 steps from the door. Is this what it's like when my parents live? Fancy bathrooms, tile floors. Patricia and Carla don't think much of it. And Ocos, they complain because in their house in El Salvador, they have a bathroom like this. I don't know what they meant. Carla called me a churrado, una chisma, made me feel bad. Patricia told her not to call me that, but whenever Carla got mad the rest of the week in Ocos, she whispered that to me. She hasn't done it since. So, at the beginning of this quote, Javier has this recurring idea that the U.S. all have big fancy bathrooms inside their houses and have tile floors. He starts to imagine what his life could be like once he reaches the U.S. to be with his family. And then at the end of the quote, Javier flashes to the idea of how life was back in El Salvador, where he had to go to the bathroom outside, and how he misses doing all these things that are so familiar to him. And then Javier hints that Patricia and Carla have a nice house, since they used to have a bathroom inside the house. And this could be because they are from a different economic background, because they were complaining about the bathroom situation in Ocos. We learned in this chapter that Patricia's husband and other daughter flew to the U.S. And then some vocab. Chisma means someone from a different economic background or low class, and it has a bad connotation. So this is why Patricia was telling Carla to stop calling him names. The author's tone began very open-minded in the first section of the quote, but then shifts when he found out that Carla keeps calling him whore. And throughout this quote, I felt bad for Javier, because it seems like that Carla does not really care for him to hang on to them and her mom so much, but he has no choice. I think the overall significance of this quote is to establish Javier's fantasies of the U.S., but also highlight the differences of him and Patricia / Carla's background. Then in the third quote, basically at this point in time, they are waiting on news when they can further along their trip to the U.S. and that they're at an apartment house, and that Patricia is trying to clean up the whole area and so it doesn't look so messy, while like the guys are just watching soccer on TV, or how each person got to pick what was on TV at that point. So this quote opens with vivid imagery with the bimbo wrapper starting to move across the ground because of the breeze, and Javier uses a metaphor to compare Patricia to the Tasmanian Devil cartoon character because she's trying to move all around so fast, try to clean up after everyone so the whole apartment will look presentable. I mean, it is kind of comical that he compares her to a cartoon character since that's what they've been watching in the apartment, and that's what he's familiar with since he is like only 9, almost 10 years old. And that Patricia does want to keep everything nice and tidy because they could be leaving at any given moment when the coyote tells them that it's okay to go. And I think that Patricia does remind Javier a lot of his own mother for a few reasons. They share the same name. They both have motherly characteristics that Javier is familiar with. And then, to be fair, I think most mothers have like a cleaning mood that Javier talked about. And what was funny to me was while I was working on this assignment that my own mom was trying to be in a cleaning mood and trying to clean stuff up in the house. So it just goes to show that this is a very common effect for some moms. And then, like, as a child, it's very comical to Javier that he gets to lie to people to say that Patricia is his mom and that he likes the idea of telling people that she is his mom. Even though he still holds deeply that his real mom is waiting for him in California. And then at the end of the quote, he compares the two women yet again. They're saying how they're both short, have tempers, and they like to clean things. Javier's tone in this quote is very lighthearted and charming since he's just observing Patricia and what she's doing. And then I think the significance of this quote is to highlight what Patricia is doing for Javier throughout all this, and that he still loves and misses his own mother. And then in the last quote we'll be talking about today, kind of just shows the relationship between Chino, Chile, and Marcelo. And I think that the word Federico means that he's seen like things before and that they're not new to him now. So I think that's why Marcelo calls him that. And then he like repeats words that he's unfamiliar with like a good amount of time in the book. I feel like any young kid would do that. Like once they hear a new word for the first time, they're just like trying to pronounce it right, and they're just thinking about the meaning a lot to try to understand and to break down it. So like at first we all know that Javier wasn't really sure of Marcelo, even though his grandparents said to like stay with him, and his grandparents paid Marcelo some money to keep an eye on Javier. So now I think we kind of see a shift in Marcelo and Javier's relationship, because now Marcelo is becoming more familiar and nicer to him over time. And I think that Javier was just at first like objectifying Marcelo because he looked tough and scary to him because of the big tattoos, and that he wasn't really familiar with that beforehand. Which is like coming back to the idea of the single story that we did like last week, talking about how he only had like one narrative of Marcelo, but now Javier is trying to see and will see like different sides of Marcelo as a person, and not just this one scary guy he is to him at first. And Javier explains that he is a kid to Chile and he's like a brother to Chino, which just brings back to the idea that the six is like a close family, and well, at least that's how Javier sees it. He sees them like all trying to connect together in his head. And I do think that now all members of the six are finally kind of seeing each other kind of like a family, and like how Patricia was acting like a mother to everybody and trying to help each person out, like by cleaning up the apartment, making sure the kids had a place to sleep, and just helping out with one of the guys when they needed to find a nail clipper as well. And Javier always says that they were all like a family, and that's why he calls them the Six, and because they're all trying to work together to get to America. I think the tone of this quote is very cheerful since he's remembering all the words of endearment that Chile, Marcelo, and Chino call him. I think the significance of this quote is to establish that the connection that they're all making with each other is finally starting to form and take place. Well, at first it was only like in Javier, like just trying to make these connections, but now I think it's like everybody in the six starts to see each other as like a family. Okay, thanks guys.